What's up, everyone? Logical Cinéphile here again. Today, I want to review and um, I want to review and kind of talk about and go into detail a little bit about a short fan-made film instead of a studio-made film. And the reason why is because I think that this film is really well done, especially for how it's done. And I really believe that if more studios went by this formula or allowed actual fans of the franchise to make the films, then they could come up with something that wouldn't cost them a lot of money to make and would net a lot of money in the long run. And the film that I'm talking about is a little short film here on YouTube called Michael vs. Jason Evil Emerges. Now, the little film is directed by Luke Petter. It's starring both Josh and John Petter. Um, and I believe like Victoria Petter or something like that is she's like the producer or executive producer or whatever. Well, I want to go ahead and get into what the film is about. Obviously, it's about Michael versus Jason. Spoiler alert ahead of time. I know I didn't do that with the last one, but here we are. Sorry. So, there's actually only one glaring flaw that I find with this, and I'll get into that at the end, but let's get into what it's about. So it opens with Jason Voorhees laying in the middle of, in the middle of the forest, whom I'm a huge fan of. I love the Friday the 13th series. I know that 5 technically wasn't him. I know that Jason Goes to Hell technically wasn't him. And I know that number 1 was probably partially him and Pamela Voorhees, but that's neither here nor there. So, of course, you hear the aforementioned Pamela Voorhees tell her son to wake up because it's time to kill again. And he gets up, he puts his mask on, he grabs his signature machete, and he starts on his trek to find people to remove from this earth. Then it switches over to like this team of mercenaries, or I guess Black Ops type team, and they're talking about how they found Michael and he just let them bring him in. He was standing there looking at a body, but he hadn't killed them, which is, leads you to believe that Jason was the one that did. And you hear the sergeant basically say that, oh, give him the mask. I want to see if he says anything, if he puts on the mask. And so they give it to him. They transport him to where they're supposedly going to kill him. And, well, he can smell fear on at least one of the crew. Obviously, the killing of Michael Myers doesn't go as planned. So they get him to the kill ranch, And in true Michael Myers fashion, he makes quick work of these guys. Now, the sergeant, who is just a basic Chad looking dude, he runs away. And Michael, of course, gives chase. And he crosses over into this, gated part of the forest, which is presumably someone else's property, where after a few minutes of hiding from Michael Myers himself, he winds up turning around to be confronted by Jason Voorhees, who, again, makes really quick work of him. And this is when the two behemoths of the slasher franchises come face to face for the first time. So, of course, a bloody battle ensues. Jason basically knocks Michael out and drags him to this shed. And he goes inside the shed and he grabs some rope, and they continue their fight outside. And Michael winds up getting the upper hand this time, and he snaps Voorhees' neck. Now, he picks up the axe that he's using, and he's, admiring the work that he's done against Jason. And then this car, full of guy and his two sons, I'm assuming, pulls up, and they're wondering what they're doing on the property, and of course they don't say anything. That's their MO. And as the father shoots Michael with a shotgun and realizes that it didn't take him down, you see Jason crack his neck back into place, which is some extra superhuman type stuff, which we all know how he is. And the two team up momentarily to kill the three would-be heroes. And of course it doesn't work out for them. And then there's this moment, and it's my favorite moment of the whole short film, where they're standing at a distance about 10 feet away from each other, and they're just kind of looking at each other, not only sizing each other up, but kind of the way that I see it is they're like, hell, fair play to you type of deal. I think they're, standing in admiration of one another, and I think that's a really cool scene. Michael, of course, closes the distance, stands in front of Voorhees, as if to say, yeah, while I respect you, we have unfinished business. So, of course, they go back at it, and they make their way into the actual shed, and Michael gets a hold of Voorhees' machete, and he stabs Voorhees into this post that's, holding up the shed. And Voorhees knocks him back. He grabs the hammer. He, goes to hit Voorhees. Voorhees blocks. He pulls the machete out of him. They start whooping up on each other. Jason eventually gets the upper hand, knocks him to the side of the building, chops off his hand, starts beating the ever-loving crap out of him. knocks him down to the ground. Gets a good shot in with a machete, and then he stabs him. And then he hears his mother say, "Oh, come back home and take a long rest, and then you can kill again," type of thing. So Jason goes to walk away. It fades to black, and you think that's it. And then it shows Jason walking through the forest again, and all of a sudden you see the bloody hand of Michael Myers wielding Jason's machete, and then it fades to black, and the credits hit. Now, I love the work that was done on this. The group that did it is a small film house organization called Radical Talent. And when you watch the behind the scenes, the whole thing is shot with what looks like a Nikon, a big Nikon camera used for taking professional photography shots. Cool. But the amount of detail and how realistic it looked better and was better in general than most of their movies combined. Kind of had a little bit of that gritty Rob Zombie type of feel. You can see the grain in it. It kind of was shot in that whole, like, the best way that I can describe it is like Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, or the first two Michael Myers, or the first two Halloweens, or the first Rob Zombie's Halloween, where it's like really 70s grindhouse looking type of film. I loved it because, like I said, there was originality in it. It was a lot better than Jason, Freddy vs. Jason. I hated that movie. But it ended up exactly how, I would think that would end up. And I really hope there's an Evil Emerges Part 2. And they have some other shorts that I wound up finding out about today called it's like Best Friends or something like that. Absolutely hilarious. Radical Talent is amazing. The only part that gives me any pause, and the only reason that this film receives 4.5 stars is because unless somehow they learn to captain a giant cargo ship or learn to fly planes or helicopters, I'm unsure of how they would have made it to Adelaide, Australia. But I mean, aside from that, that's just like nitpicking on my end. But yeah, I mean, if more films did what this film did, I think if somebody allowed more than just, like Fede Alvarez, when he did the reboot to Evil Dead, and when he did Don't Breathe with, God, what's his name? Stephen Lang. We need more directors like that. Like, Adi Shankar, somebody who, he directed and, basically just spearheaded the Castlevania series on Netflix. He also did a short film for The Punisher called Dirty Laundry, starring Thomas Jane as the Punisher. Which was an absolutely brutal fan film and actually brought everything that I love about the Punisher to life. But we need more. We need more of this type of filmmaking. We need more of this type of writing, this type of creativity. People who aren't, in it just to make the money. I mean, because this is a not-for-profit fan film, and originally I was gonna do Hard Candy starring Elliot Page, and but I went back and I rewatched Evil Emerges, and I was like, no, that's what I'm doing this time. So, yeah, I give it 4.5 stars out of 5. And if Radical Talent actually sees this, hell, I would love to talk to you guys. I'd love to, kind of interview you and see what you're working on. Um, Basically, sing my praises to you guys personally. But yeah, I think that's about all I got for right now. I know this isn't as in depth or whatever as the Blair Witch Project, but of course it's a lot shorter and it is a fan film, so um, there aren't any theories on it, um, except for there are things that I do wonder about certain slashers, but it's stuff that I can talk about at a later time. Um, Aside from that, if you haven't seen it yet, definitely check it out. But that's it for me. Until next time, kiddos, Logical Cinephile, over and out.